nutritionals. A whole hour in,
A whole hour.
In 4 years of medical school. And they told us there's vitamin A and B1 and B2 and C and D, and they're in alphabetical order, and you can look them up. And then they told us some really basic facts. We got a whole hour.
First of all, how much training did you receive on nutrition when you were in medical school? Because I know here in the States, it's almost none.
Yeah, not much.
Not much,
Not much.
even in Argentina?
It's close to yeah, very little.
Close to none?
Very little.
Because in medical school, they don't teach you anything about nutrition.
We got hours and hours and hours on how to use basically patent medicines, which, as you know, are what usually goes on the prescription pad as a molecule that can be patented, which means it's not found in nature, because you can't patent it if it's not found in nature, if it's found in nature. And that's what we get educated in.
They don't get paid to educate people. They get paid to write prescriptions. And you know, you can imagine the drug lobby made sure that's the case.
The doctor is brainwashed when he gets out of medical school because the medical school has too much subsidization of the professors who are being paid by the drug company.
Wants to lose weight. Obesity is ridiculous.
We're the #1 obese nation in the world.
By 2030, they estimate 50% obese. Folks use the Mighty 90 to lose some weight.
We spend more money for healthcare than all the nations of the world combined. We're the #1 obese nation in the world. What's going on here? What that tells you, you don't have to be too bright. Stand back and say, how could we be the #1 obese nation in the world? What does it say, the level of understanding of obesity by our doctors and our government? We know nothing.
Nothing.
Otherwise, we'd be number 204, right? We'd be the thinnest people on earth and the healthiest. But we're #1 obesity because they know nothing about obesity. In their theory, obesity is caused from lack of exercise and a disease of excess. You're eating too much. Because they think that we're like an oven. They think if you eat carbohydrates at only 4.5
calories in, calories out.
Exactly, 4.5 calories per gram as opposed to 9 calories per gram for fat. You can't buy fat. It's fat-free, low fat, no fat.
But we're still fat.
We're still obese. Okay, and that's because it is not a disease of excess and it's not a disease of lack of exercise. When you're obese or even overweight, it's a disease of deficiency. You're deficient in a couple of minerals. And the symptom, the deficiency is 250,000 drugs, pharmaceuticals in the PDR, the physician's desk reference, they have access to treat people in America. There's new ones coming out all the time. They're always bragging about how many billions of dollars worth of research they spend every year to find new drugs. If you take out the 500 antibiotics, that still leaves 249,500 drugs. There's not a single one of those designed to cure anything. There's not a single drug in the PDR except maybe antibiotics to cure a strep throat. Other than that, there's not a single drug in the PDR that cures anything. All designed to milk your insurance policies. They're all designed to milk Medicare and Medicaid because there's no laws requiring pharmaceutical companies to manufacture drugs that cure, even though they could. There's 250,000 drugs, pharmaceuticals in the PDR, the physician's desk reference. They have.
By 2004, Vioxx had likely killed 120,000 people. The FDA approved Vioxx because it lacked complete certainty that the drug increased cardiovascular risk, although this was known all the time based on the mechanism of action. We knew this drug causes thrombosis. The FDA didn't care. The EMA didn't care. So it's a bit like I'm going to prescribe something that works like aspirin but costs much, much more. If only doctors were more honest, they wouldn't kill so many people. Then we also have psychiatry. Antidepressant drugs, we take so many in Denmark so everyone can be in treatment for 6 years of our life. This is totally insane. And sales are closely related to the number of drugs on the market. So it's marketing pressure. It's not evidence-based medicine. Every time a new drug comes on the market, you have a new sales force that travel around to doctors, say use SSRIs for everything. And this is what they do.
Is the MD ideology because it's reductionistic. And reductionism argues that man is smarter than nature, man is smarter than God, that the human body is a bag of biochemicals waiting to break, and when something does go wrong, it's the doctor's job, the reductionistically trained MD's job, to orchestrate a hostile takeover of the metabolism of the body, right? So we give an antibiotic, an anti-inflammatory, an antihypertensive. We give something to kill the tumor in this case. And these results that they got with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma were encouraging, but in the final analysis it didn't work. But this was the beginning of the chemical revolution, the use of very harsh chemicals introduced into the blood of a human being in order to kill the tumor. As you can see, not very effective, ironically. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that when you attempt to do this, you're going to generate side effects.
How did that influence your perspective, like as a med student, if at all?
Yeah. Any type of sickness, any type of illness, any type of condition, only needs the proper drugs or the proper combination of drugs or a higher dose of drugs.
Or more and more drugs.
Or more and more drugs. And that's what's always in your mind is, you know, here's a problem and what type of drug is going to solve it. To see a patient who was on 15, 20 drugs was nothing.
What?
It's money. I think it's about money. I think that the medical profession is in the business of disease maintenance, not disease reversal or disease cures. And what's really unfortunate is that people don't realize the dangers of treating people this way. Cancer is no longer a disease, it's an industry.
Wow, that's powerful.
Most on lockdown said only go to the doctor if you need to. That didn't just become an unsafe place. Hospitals have always been the third leading cause of death in America. And they have over 200,000 drugs that do not cure, come with all types of risks that people literally don't even read the inserts on. And instead of changing their lifestyle, they take those patches that don't even solve the actual symptoms. And remember when this doctor came out and said that black women die 5 to 7 times more because they're not believed on their pain issues. Listen up.
November 2010, hospital care failed for some patients. That's kind of vanilla. This is a little scarier. Results of Medicare study alarming. Now, the study was done by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. In this case, this is essentially the auditor for Medicare. What they said was that each month in America, medical doctors kill 15,000 Medicare patients each month in hospitals. Medical doctors kill 15,000 Medicare patients each month in hospitals. We still keep bringing our loved ones to the hospital because in our minds and our hearts we hope and pray that this is a place of safety and health. But statistics.
If you're a woman of color in this country, especially if you're black, your odds of dying in childbirth are 3 to 4 times higher on average in our country.
Why? Because you're not talking about access to health care. You're not talking about money or education.
No, and this is going to be hard to hear. We believe black women less when they express concerns about the symptoms they're having, particularly around pain. And that's the common thread in all the stories we've been hearing in the media, including Serena Williams.
Yes, even Serena Williams, the world-class athlete who developed a pulmonary embolism after giving birth to her daughter last September.
We had a lot of complications, but look who we got.
She says that had she not insisted on receiving a CAT scan, she could have died.
We're leaving the hospital after 7 days, 6 days. It's been a long time.
Doctors instill this fear in you. They tell you, if you don't do this, your kid's gonna die. And they look you right in your eye and they're serious about it.
And they said it multiple times
They tell us,
that our child will die if she stops chemotherapy.
His side effects were so extreme, I feared I'll say goodnight to him and he won't wake up again. Raul has been able to bear it, but it has been unbearable for me. And she shouldn't have to, because she doesn't have cancer.
Nobody knows that kids are being forced into chemotherapy, that they're being taken away from their parents in certain situations and forced into chemotherapy. 99% of the population has no idea this is happening.
There is no cancer for which I would be willing to undergo chemotherapy myself. No cancer at all. You can't say, well, what about this exception? What about that exception? Nope.
You all heard of these censuses that get taken every 10 years, and right now we're the 3rd largest population in the world. Okay, now to me though, the most important piece of that census was this. They said the average black man in America lives to be 62, the average white man in America lives to be 75, and the average Hispanic man lives to be 80.6. Now wait a minute, all the other surveys said that only wealthy people live the longest. The most educated people live the longest. Well, the Hispanics have 28.6% unemployment. They have the least amount of education of any ethnic group in the United States. They get paid the least, so none of this fits. So what's going on here? What was discovered is this. Because the blacks have been told incorrectly and fraudulently that all their diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure and arthritis and cancer and obesity is due to genetics, they got the terrible black gene. If you marry the medical system and use our pills and potions and use our surgeries, we'll be able to squeeze a couple more years of life for you out of this terrible black gene. Stick with us and we'll help you. And so they've overused the medical system and been killed more often. By contrast, the Hispanics are still using grandma's home remedies and do not use the medical system, and so they're not killed as often.
Throwback to how long the government has been literally keeping cures away from the people, knowing it works and allowing us to slowly die because they want to make profits. It's not new.
Unbelievably, after months of eating the seed, the tumor doctors said would kill him started to disappear.
It was 2.5, shrunk down to 1.1.
Not only were his doctors surprised, but even Jason was stunned. And he was convinced the seeds were his lifesaver. He became a big-time believer. He even started to give inspirational lectures. He wanted everyone to know about the seeds, for a price that is. He even started selling the seeds online.
And how many customers did you have? Hundreds of thousands? I'd say between 20 and 40,000.
Now, before you stampede to your local store to buy up all the apricot seeds you can find, you need to know why all of this landed Jason behind bars.
I didn't find this miracle cure.
Just wait a minute. Rewind the tape.
I didn't find this miracle cure.
You see, it's that word.
Cure.
انتشر زي الانفلونزا بتاعت الخنازير، وان شاء الله تجيكم الانفلونزا بتاعت الاسماك في المستقبل. على اي حال ان المصانع تشتغل بتاعت المخابرات هذه اذا كانت هي تباع بثمن غالي معناها تجاره، يصنعوا فيروس وينشروه في العالم باش الشركات الراسماليه تحصل اموال ببيع الاموال. عيب، هذا حرام عليكم. الامصال لا تباع، الدواء لا يباع. اقروا الكتاب الاخضر لا يسمح ببيع الدواء. الدواء لا يباع. اعلنوا قولوا الدواء مجاني. الامصال مجانيه، مش حتنتشر الفيروسات لان خلقوا فيها باش يعملوا امصال وباش تكسب منها الشركات الراسماليه. هذه معالجه خطا. اعلنوا الادويه.
Monday Mentions, where we talk about the things most don't even mention. And about 4 years ago, I was looking for this holistic doctor, Anne Baroche. We're going viral everywhere, saving lives. Turns out they killed her. She's dead. They said that it was ruled a suicide. Her family said it was a professional hit. Then I did more research. Are there more holistic doctors? Yes. Being murdered in campgrounds with tons of people around, nothing being taken, murdered in front of their children, left to bleed out and die. Entire families being taken out. Summits with 29 doctors being poisoned, and people can't explain these attacks. Also, 7 dead in one shot at a summit. It just continued to go on and on. And until the numbers got outrageous, 77, 85 as I'm doing my research, including Dr. Sebi on the list. Now, in 2016, they took him out as well. And people would say that this is coincidental, but I ask people to pay attention. Really think outside the box. Nothing is coincidence. That's a G word, okay? So pay attention and mention the things that...
I asked him what other alternative therapies were available, and he said none. There are none. If you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane. I asked him about the raw foods diet because I've been reading up on it. He said, that'll fight the chemo. You can't do that. I knew I was onto something when he said that. Also said to me, look, I'm not telling you this because I need your business. Why would you say that? That was the furthest thing from my mind. But then when he said it, I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is a business, isn't it? Yeah, it was very telling. 100% raw vegan, drank 8 glasses of vegetable juice every day. That's 64 ounces a day. Did that for well over a year. And it's been 8 years. All my tests are clean. I asked him